appears to have certainly had a major role in the orchid group for, I take it, many years. And I'm hoping that they'll mention a little bit of what they've done there. And butterflies. So there you go. There must be a book in there somewhere.
The checkered butterfly was found on this family's pond.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Anyway.
Yeah, I found it.
We would like to say welcome to you, and we're looking forward to what I'm sure will be very interesting and worthwhile. Thank
you. So we're going to do this talk in two parts. We're using the orchids, but we're actually going to be talking more about iNaturalist, how it's used. So I'm going to start off with a bit of a summary. Then with the main part, which Robert will do, will be how we do identifications on iNaturalist, how that's done. Because we have found there's a lot of confusion amongst people on how it works, and it's an amazing tool. So I will try and be fairly brief. Okay. This slide will come up at the end. Can you all hear me? Have we got a microphone?
Yeah, we have actually. Sorry, got that.
So this first slide I will put on at the end, so if you want to take, because I will refer to some of these things throughout, but you can take a photograph at the end. Let's see, can you all hear me now? Right, okay then. So we won't spend any time on this. Robert, next one please. So iNaturalist. Who is iNaturalist? iNaturalist, and I've said who because it's a community of people. And as you can see from that list, the type of people is very varied, from the absolute novice who just likes to take photographs to the experts in any given field. And to give you an idea of the type of experts, I photographed a fungi earlier this year, and we've been having trouble getting it identified. But it was a guy in America who had access to a database that we didn't have access to that gave us the hint on where to look for. And so now I'm waiting to hear back from Queensland because I've gone through all these different pathways. That's iNaturalist at work. So it is it is international. There's a few million people on it, which is really great. I'll just keep going through because we want to keep. So of iNaturalist itself, most people see it as they take an observation on their phone. They take a photograph, they load it up onto the website, and then there's a discussion of what you found. So people help each other with identification. But more importantly, every one of those observations goes into one of the, either an international database or a local database. So for us, we've got the GBIF, which is international, but also the Atlas of Living of Australia, and I'm sure most of you will have heard of the Atlas. In fact, the Atlas has been renamed as iNaturalist Australia. So they have their own portal, I think? Not quite sure of the right word there. So as a resource, what are we working with? With iNaturalist, there's the platform with the website, there's an app for both Androids and Apple, yeah, that other one. There are citizen scientists. Now, citizen scientists, a lot of different definitions, but basically they're people who volunteer their time to contribute to science. Some of these are retired experts in their areas. Some of them are just like, I'm homegrown. I have no training in any of this. So you've got, and then you've just got, like I said, the person who takes a casual photograph. There's a whole lot of community, so there's good community discussion. The other thing that is really very good about iNaturalist is that the observations are verifiable. I can say to you guys, oh, I saw a I just said before, I saw a checkered butterfly. Now, you don't know whether I identified that correctly or not, but I have a photograph and I put it on iNaturalist. So someone else can come along and say, no, you got that wrong, or yes, you're right. So it's verifiable. Just as and this is at the end, Thomas Masegilo, known as the Beachcomber, has just written a guide for using iNaturalist, and I would, if you're interested in using iNaturalist, that's the one to read. It's a PDF that you can get from CSIRO, and I like it, he's put orchids on the front. So some other resources as far as the plants are concerned, I've mainly stuck with them. iNaturalist looks to see what is the recognised authority or the body that is the repository for the names of your various species. And so for the plants, it's the Plants of the World Online, which is managed by Kew Gardens, and the Australian Plant Census, which is managed by the Herbaria of Australia. So just a few general comments about AI. There's been a lot of talk goes on about AI, and which is called artificial intelligence. On iNaturalist, they can call it computer vision. Now, what seems to confuse people is they think AI gives them the definitive identification. It does not. It offers suggestions. It will say we are not confident enough to give an identification, or we think it is. It is only suggestions. You have to use that as a tool, not let that rule what you decide upon. For the AI to work though, it needs populating, and so that means in Australia, iNaturalist has not been going for very long. As a result, there's not enough species that have enough observations done for the AI to even begin to suggest it. So that fungi that I mentioned earlier on, there's nothing until we started taking observations. For it to actually even offer it as a suggestion, it requires 100 observations. So it takes time. Of course, the more observations it gets in, the better it becomes, but it's never ever going to be foolproof. So there was a conversation I've been reading on the forums, and a taxonomist has put up, is AI going to do me out of a job, as his question. And the general consensus of the various people, and they were both IT people and taxonomists and Joe Blow having this conversation, is no, there's a limit to what it's going to do. So it's a tool. And my father always taught me, you learn to master the tool, never let it master you. And that's how I would view the AI. So just a couple of quick stats. One of the things I've seen with some of the plant apps that are around in Play Store and whatever, is they seem to imply they're going to get 100% identification. That doesn't happen. You're not going to get it down to species level 100% of the time because, one, we may not have even described it. The other is, you may not have supplied enough information to get it down there. So about 3/4 of all the observations on iNats are at species level. So that is actually very good. I'm quite happy with that percentage. One of the big issues with iNaturalist, and this is why we're partly giving some of this talk, is that a lot of people join up, but then they don't do anything with it. So that big blue area, it's that red area down the bottom is where the active people are. And we want to get people out of the blue area into that red area to be more active on that. So next one. So I shouldn't have taken it. Oh no, we gave a talk to NOSSA, and that's why this is still on there. But so NOSSA, which is the Native Orchid Society of South Australia, actually has a project on iNaturalist where we gather all the orchid information. And currently there's almost 30,000 observations. And I'm quite impressed, it's got an 81% research grade, so that's pretty good. But as you can see, there's 224 species that we've got on. But with the orchids, depending upon which taxonomical view you take, it should be more like 350. Probably 300. But as you can see, a lot of observers, there's 1,000 people have done observations, and 500 people, and they may not have been the observers, have come in and helped with the identification. That's how iNaturalist works. So this page, so where this arrow is pointing, I just wanted to point out something. Not everybody likes being on iNaturalist, but sometimes they're happy for a photograph of theirs to come up. iNaturalist always gives, encourages, I should say, that people acknowledge who the photographer is. So down in the observation field, which is right down there, you can click on that and you can look for observed by, and you can enter the name of the person who has supplied the photograph. Hopefully they'll get onto iNaturalist, but it doesn't always happen. So next one.
Just one comment, question there.
Yeah.
Because I'm working on this Caterpillar app with Peter McQuillan.
Yeah.
And I've got to the stage where I need to contact some people. Well, first of all, you need to acknowledge those that say you can use it. But sometimes they don't have their name, they only have their handle.
Their username.
Their username.
Yeah, which is...
I mean, I'd like to...
I haven't done a slide on it, but within iNats, you can message the same way that you message on Facebook. You can send a private message to a person.
Well, I probably need to help how to do that, because there's a couple of images that we would like to use that they say they're not available for use. So I need to contact them to say, excuse me, can we use it for this program?
Right.
So I need to know how to do that. I did send one fellow a message on remarks, but I thought that's probably not the way.
No. So you go to their username.
No, we'll go back. No, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, I'll show you later. Yes, because I didn't go into that side of it.
But I'm interested to know how you do that, because Peter said it could be done, and I've stuffed around how to do it, and I can't work it out and do it.
Actually, it's not clear even on that picture, so we won't worry about that. But
we'll sit down later and I might come around and need a lesson.
Okay. There is actually a whole video that I've done on using just for a beginner with iNaturalist.
Okay.
Plus that book of Thomas's is really very good. So I put this profile page up because one of the things when you're doing identifications is it's nice to know who is doing the identifying of things. Do they have any expertise? And a lot of people put up their profile and they don't say who they are. This, I think, is a really helpful thing to go in and say who you are. Some of the people that are on there, you know, they tell you the books they've written. They have all the links to all their resources. In the moth people. So Victor, what was his name? He died last year or the year before in Victoria.
Was it Fazio?
That's it, yeah. His cousin is maintaining his profile because he has so much information on there and has done so much identification. And he's got links for each of the states with things. So the profiles can be very helpful information when you're looking at who do I ask to help me identify something. And you say, well, yeah, this person says this is their area. My particular way of dealing with things is I look for who to tag rather than doing the identifications myself. But yeah, everyone does things a little bit differently. So that's the profile page. Next one. So a little bit about observations. Probably the simplest thing to remember with an observation, it's not about getting the pretty perfect picture. It's about getting the picture that has the identifying features in. So poorly focused is better than a well focused without the identifying feature in it. Hand for scale, or it's in my other pocket. I have a scale card that I use. Sometimes I use my ring, but that's also helpful. And the thing is, and this is what I do a lot, I don't know what it is I'm photographing. I've got no idea. I've got no idea what is the identifying features. So I take as many different pictures as I can from different angles, whatever. iNaturalist allows you to put up 20 images. So then I'm able to go through and select what seems to be the best of that group and put up. So that's, yeah, I do that with a lot of other plants because I don't know my other plants very well. It's a bit hard to do with insects and butterflies because they move too much. But I did get that one feeling, didn't I, that I sent you ages ago, you've forgotten. Yeah, I can't even remember what it was called. The other, as far as the orchids are concerned, on the NOSSA website, I have put up several articles on how to photograph for identification. And that's quite a complex and large topic, so just go and read all those articles, it's easiest. Next one. So, doing identifications. One of probably the biggest rookie mistake on, if we call it a mistake, that happens on iNaturalist, you put a picture up, you don't know what it is, someone else comes along and identifies it, and you agree with that identification, but you still don't know what it is. If you don't know what it is, you don't agree. Leave it for someone else, because there will be other people come and have a look. Because once an identification goes up with a species name, there'll be, Robert, could you show them later because I didn't do a slide of this, there'll be down in the bottom right hand corner a list of top identifiers. So you can tag those people. And the identification is based upon a consensus. It requires a 2/3 majority for any observation to reach research grade. So that means if you've had 6 people do some have done some identification, 2 agreed, 2 others have a totally different one, and 1 doesn't even know, the person that put it up originally doesn't know. That's not going to get to research grade. But as the conversation goes on, someone might think, oh, maybe I didn't put up the right ID on that, I've had another look at it, and they will withdraw. And that will then help with getting it up to that research grade. But Robert will show some of that when that gets to it. So just now back to that slide that I had with all the links. If anyone wants to take photographs of that. And now we get on to the real-time identification.
Thank you, Rosalie. Rosalie does the talking bit better than me, so that was the highlight.
Are you going to want me to hold that for you? Because I think you may need that. Right, so this is my iNat page, my last observation that I put up. So I can see all of my observations by clicking that button. But often when people want to do identifications, they click this identify button, and that brings up a whole lot of... You haven't got a stamp for this?
It brings up the latest plants that have appeared, and so there's a couple of... Yes, for some reason my page always filters to South Australia because I click otherwise. So when I tend to go through and look for species that I'm interested in identifying. So this one is an orchid, so it's this one. Now I open them on new pages so I can go back to this one later. So this one's a midge orchid. It's finished flowering. Come up in a moment. So you can see the ovaries are starting to swell up, but the segments have dried out, so you can't really see what they are. But because it's got the location, there really is only one species of midge orchid that occurs in the Adelaide Hills. So, so when you go to identify, you click on this suggest an identification, then click in here, and then the computer vision gives this drop-down list of possibilities. So this is the one that, and often it's to the genus level, so if you're not sure, you can just click the genus and let someone else do it. This one, I'm sure it's that one, and I just click done. And I always put in what state the flowering is, because this is information that needs some intelligence to work out. So, so I'll put that it's fruiting. There are some plants I don't know, like some of the chenopod's, I can't tell whether they're flowering or budding or what they're doing, so I'll leave them to the experts. You know, and sometimes with insects, I can't tell whether they're nymphs or adults, or you know, I'll leave that blank then. But where I can, I fill in those annotations. That sort of gives some extra information. With this particular one, I've created an observation field for where is it? That one. So I didn't bring along today, but there's a book that was published 21 by David Jones called The Complete Guide to Australian Orchids. But of course it's not complete because there's a whole lot of unnamed orchids in there, or orchids that he's given names for the publication, but there were no descriptions at the time. And so this little drop-down list here is from his book, the species that weren't described at the time. So this one, Acidua, is the one that applies here. A couple of them, Acronata and Laminata, have been published in the last year, so we've been using those as well. So I click on that and click add, and so then we can do a search then for all of the orchids with that name. So I can do I can look for everything with this filled out, and that will give me that whole rufa complex, or I can look for this field and value, so all of those that are that species, I can look at them all at once and check identifications. So that's very helpful there. I also, there's a field for hybridisation. You can indicate whether a plant you put up is a hybrid or not, or maybe. So I'll cancel that one. And things like whether it's leucistic, sorry. So if you've got a plant that's all yellow or all white, you know, no red colour at all, then you can click on that and indicate a yes or no. Obviously, you want to put yes, otherwise you wouldn't bother putting the observation up. So they're handy things. But some are not so useful, like there's one for flowering. Well, there's no point in saying that it's flowering or not, because you can put that up here in the annotations. Good. So there's another identification on. So if it was something that was particularly important to get identified, I would tag someone in it. So if I want to take Rosalie in this, I can just type the @ sign didn't come up. What came up was an A. So there's, and then I can click save, and Rosalie will get a message on her computer saying that I've mentioned her in an observation.
So
just.
And then the next one, somebody has identified this leaf to genus level. And these leaves, the bunny orchids, are starting to come up now. So this one's got an old flower stem on it. You can see it there, or it might have had a pot on it. But somebody has photographed the leaf, knowing, well, it's the leaf that's the important bit for identification.
Excuse me, right.
Yeah.
So these are the hair orchids and the rabbit ear orchids. Is that what we call bunny orchids?
No.
No.
It's that common names have gone through a lot of changes since iNaturalist has gone up, because across the country, across a valley, people have different common names.
So these are some different bunny orchids.
They used to be Parson Bands.
Parsons Bands is one of the names.
Oh,
There's,
okay.
But the eastern states, I think, have always used bunny orchids.
That's confusing.
yeah, well, this
It takes
little,
on a bit.
this group, this group is particularly confusing because they were all called cucullata at one stage. So we look at the suggestions. So that's one of the suggestions, cucullatus. But so Collinus, meaning of the hills, is the species. But in this case, there are two different subspecies, which some people consider a species and some treat them as subspecies. But if you believe that they're species, you have to use the subspecies name to indicate them. So, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to call this hills bunny. And you only have to put some part of the name in it.
On some people's computers. It doesn't work on mine. He keeps telling me that.
Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't work on his, but so
I've
anyway.
just got to do, I don't know.
So I'm going to click this one, and that will take that to that subspecies. And normally I'll put in whether it's flowering or not, but because I can't see what state the flower is, whether it's fruiting or still flowering, I'll leave that one blank.
So Robert, if you go back to that previous identification, the rufous one, the Jennifer's one, and open that up again.
Do you want?
No, just open it up again. You'll soon see why. Open it.
Yep, there we go.
Scroll down. See, I've been on and had a look, and I've agreed with him. Normally, I don't agree with Robert because it's almost like we're one, but with some of the common stuff or the stuff that's really, really rare and we know people don't know it, we tend not to. But
Yeah,
for
so
today's episode,
for those who can't hear, Rosalie's just saying that she's gone into that record on her phone and just agreed with that identification. We don't automatically agree with each other's, otherwise we'd get everything to research grade really quickly. But
well, it's not very, I don't think it's very ethical actually.
yeah. So yeah, just for the quality of the identifications, we don't just automatically agree with each other.
So in this instance, you've got 3 people looking at it, 2 have agreed, so 2/3, it's 2 out of 3. But someone could come along and disagree, and that would start the whole process again. It is a community consensus.
So then you've got that bar on the right that shows you that research grade.
Yes. Yeah.
So if somebody disagrees, you said you've got the wrong end, you're looking at the wrong end of the plant, can you change the classification once you've created the record?
Yeah, you can disagree with your own identification at any
You can,
time.
yeah.
So, yeah, so this ID field is one way of doing it, but it's very difficult to filter. Although you can do a search like orchids.
Oh, by the way, my philosophy on taking observations is always be curious, photograph everything. And I happened to say to someone, including the golf ball, the very next day, there was a golf ball where I was. I don't know where the golf course was.
Golf balls turn up everywhere, but there is a thelmitral leaf in there.
Two.
Two, all right,
There's
there's
one right against the,
Sometimes this takes a while to process the photos, but
so the reason why you can see that's a thelmitral leaf is it's channeled.
it's got a little fold in the middle.
So they're the sun orchids. So they're up now.
Yeah, so the sun orchids have got a channel.
Some of them have, there's lots of different leaves, that's just one of them, so.
But what I call onion orchids are starting to come up now as well, is that right?
Yes, they should be, I haven't seen any, but they could be. They're rounded like an onion.
Without the channel.
No channel.
So the other thing that happens is that you get this little, the number with the, like the speech bubble, that tells me that somebody's looked at my records. So I can look at that and I can look at what individuals have said or agreed with. Oops. So somebody had identified a leaf just as an orchid. Next person, who's the observer? Frank observed it. Somebody had identified it as an acanthus. Then I took it the next step to the species level, and then this one has agreed with me. Jenny's agreed with me. So now that's should be research level, yes. So I just tend to look at all of those notifications and just check whether people have agreed or not. Or sometimes people put a new identification up and I think, oh, I don't really know, and I'll withdraw mine because I'll leave it to someone else to sort out. That one's straightforward. Acanthus leaves tend to be pale green, they tend to be that shape, and often you can see a different stage of growth. You can see that faint shape there. The leaf was that size at one stage, waiting for it to rain again, then there's a rain event, it has a growth spurt and puts on that new lobe. And that one I said that there was no evidence of flowering.
So I'll just point out with this one, we tend not to do identification of the interstate orchids because in South Australia we have only one species, so you can't make a mistake. But there are about 3 or 4 where the leaf looks like that on that species, so we would not be able to get that to species level on the eastern state acanthus. What I would say, you sort of stick within the areas that you're confident are in and start to learn, but work out your way gradually.
Yes, other notification, I got somebody who agreed with my kite identification, so I put up the best 2 of about 6 photos that I took that were enough to identify it. And with those, there's some different annotations for animals and birds. So you can, for an animal, there's all those sorts of different options. So even if you find a feather, you can put up an identification. Sometimes it's a track, or like I like putting up koala scratches on trees because if you see large enough scratches, you know they're there even if you don't see one.
Can you sort of go back a bit? So say for example you take a photograph of something and you want to have a look at, and you think it's something. If you want to go back and have a look at all the pictures of that particular, whatever it is, can you go back to demonstrate that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Or if you're looking for something in a particular location, how do you do that? That's the other and that's kind of at the beginning, isn't it?
It's a different,
Location is community,
yeah.
and type in where you want to look at.
Yeah, you just,
So,
there's a search
so
button.
with this, like thermometry, you can click on that category and that'll show you all for that genus. So if you want to look at, yeah, that's a rubra. So a lot of these are, you can identify from that, from the flower. Sometimes you need the flower and the leaf. And then it's got a whole list of all the species in that genus.
You can see from the numbers, some have had a lot of observations, and some of them not much at all.
But can you tell from that 286, I can't quite read the detail, whatever it is, one of those triple digit numbers,
Well,
can you tell that they're South Australian observations, or are they could be from anywhere? Is that
These could be from anywhere.
Yeah.
This is just the taxonomy. If you go to this one, Thermitra,
You can reduce your search, you can put your location as South Australia, and that will just show you South Australia
So that'll filter
information.
out all the others.
That'll filter out the others.
But you can filter a sort of a locality, can't you? I mean, you
Yes.
can just say, so
Do you want to have a look at that?
so with this example, you can click on View All, and it'll give you a list of all the observations, and you can put up a map.
But that's only doing South Australia.
Oh, we'll just click on that. And it says world. Just hide that one. So, yeah, so that shows you the distribution for the across all Australia in this case. If you want to look at all the orchids in a particular area, it'll do a map like that, and then you can click on this. Where did I see it? Oh, that little. You can draw a rectangular or a circular, and so if you just want to see what was up there in the Flinders Ranges, you could look at an area like that, and then it says there's 39 species, so you can look at what species are present.
yeah, that's what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And you could look at it's got 32 observations, so you can look at those 32 observations, and you can compare them, or the grid is handy because that gives the pictures of a bit more detail. One of the things I like to recognise is when spider orchids have been damaged by a wasp. So you see that this labellum is leaning forward. So that's a wasp has tried to pollinate that. Oh, it's one of my observations.
Do you need to put in rats and longs?
No, because they're in the data's on the photograph when you take it on your phone.
You must have it turned
Oh,
on,
yeah.
GPS turned on your phone.
Yeah.
You can go in, if you're putting them up, say, pictures from your camera, and if you don't have a GPS, you can go to the map. Do you want to go to a map, Robert? You happy to use this one to go to?
Oh, I was going to say something else about this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you can go to a map and you can actually drop a pin like you do with Google Maps. And you can also, if you're not sure of the accuracy, you can make this circle bigger or smaller. And you say, well, it's roughly in that area. And I do that for a lot of my historical ones because I don't have that detail.
So how do you do that? Where do you do that?
All right, so in this one being my observation, I can edit the location. So I'll just zoom in.
So it's the circle that you can change the size of.
Yeah, so so I could say, oh, no, it was a different location. I could click a point like that, and or I can change the size of the uncertainty of the area.
Oh, I see there's a certain, yeah.
Yeah, there's a.
You just got to get it on.
And you can edit it. In here, you can edit the accuracy, so you can put 50 metres or whatever.
So you can do that because that's on your site and that's one of your observations.
Yes.
So no one else could do that too.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
So when you first put it up on your computer, put your photo up, then you put your location in, which just bring up the world map and just go back into where you find it, and then say what species it is, because it needs a location for the AI to work better.
Oh, you can do this. There's different ways you can do it. There's, so long as you get both of them up.
Yeah, and then
That's the thing.
if you've got more than one photo, you add the observation, then go back in there and then add the extra photos in.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which order you do it.
So if you
So
do
I'll
something
just-
with your camera, you do it potentially this way. You find the spot and put your spot in.
Yeah, well, you would load it. So that we haven't prepared for that talk. That's a whole different methodology. You can go into. There's a thing called upload. Did you want to cancel that, Robert? And
Yeah, so
we'll
I'll just because I don't want to save those changes, so I'll just cancel that, and so yeah, it'll stay where it was.
the green button up the top there is upload, and that's where you can. But that's just a big area. We can do another talk on that.
Yeah. So
That
the
means
other
putting
thing,
up, like, that's how you get a picture up of your own.
Of your camera. Yeah.
So
So if you've got historical data, so I've got things from several years ago.
you do it on your phone, how do you do it? You go into
Jan, there's a whole. Do you want us to give another talk? On your phone.
Because I mean, I belong to it, but I have never uploaded anything.
Okay.
I don't know how to do it, so.
I've actually got something here that I hadn't put up. So I go into my camera on my phone, to my gallery. Oh, wait a minute, camera. Yeah, no, that's the right one. And, yeah. So I've got some pictures. I did a caterpillar. Yeah, I did a caterpillar the other day. I've got 3 pictures that I took. Put it on there. Go down to the share button. And then iNaturalist, because I use it so often, it's there straight away. It says, what did you see? And it's got a magpie tiger moth as it. It says we're pretty sure. Robert's told me that it was a Senecio moth, so
when it says it's a magpie tiger moth, well,
it's not. It says,
isn't it the same thing?
I've got no idea. See, I don't know, so I'm going to go on my ignorance. I don't know. So what I can do is, I don't know, I clicked on the name and it took me to this page, and then I'll go down to the taxonomy and I can move up the ladder where I think it should sit.
You know it's a moth.
So I know it's a moth, so I could do it butterflies and moths, or I could come down to it. So I'll just go to butterflies and moths, and when the internet's working well, I'll click select, and that's what I've got there. It's got the location. I don't need any notes on here. With the phone, getting to some of the annotations is a bit harder. I do that at home later, or I can go onto this once it's uploaded. So I click yes on that, and then I have my apps here, and I will just
This is probably better on the videos that Rosie's already done.
Yeah.
elsewhere.
So you can see that green line, it's still uploading. When that's uploading, I can go in and I can do a bit more editing if I want to.
When you get home.
I can do it now, once it's, so like it's uploaded. And then the annotations that Robert was talking about, well, was it alive or dead? Well, it was alive. Evidence of presence, it was an organism. The life stage, it was a caterpillar, so that makes it larva. Is that right? Yeah, I'm not very good on my things. So,
So basically, you're better to do it on your phone directly from your photograph into iNaturalist if you can.
it's whatever you find easiest. Everybody does things the way they feel comfortable with. So there's not a right or a wrong way to do it. There are actually several different ways, and you find the way that suits you. The one thing I will say about doing it from my phone like this is that it doesn't use up my battery. If I opened it in the app and then did the observation, because when you open up the app, you get a choice, take a photograph, selected image. It uses up a lot of battery power if you're out in the field. But I like doing it, why I like doing it this way is I do a whole lot all at once. I don't have to stop and fill everything in. I sit down with a cup of coffee, and I did time it actually. It's 30 seconds for me to do one observation when I'm just putting them all up. So sit down with a cup of coffee, put a podcast on or whatever, and just load up some observations. And not use up my battery.
Other thing I wanted to show you here was that I created a project for wasp damaged spider orchids. So I just click on that and it adds it to that project. And then you can look at all of the wasp damaged spider orchids. So there are 8 species. And you can go in and mark other people's observations as wasp damage. So we've got this 8 different species where it's been recognised to happen. Lots of different people have observed them. Even that fellow.
I didn't know I observed wasps.
Well, now you just actually no, Mike. That's actually a very good profile that Mike's done there, because he's, you know, if you want to get some help from someone, okay, he says butterflies, cacti, orchids. You've got an idea of, well, he's the person, he's someone that I could ask and feel confident with.
So how do you ask them?
Oh, you take them. So Robert tagged me earlier on where he put my username as Orchid Rose, so he did @Orchid Rose, and then I got the message.
So I could take
So there's
Mike in this and add what was it? STREG,
there he is.
Straight lead.
that one. So he'll get a message. And whether he wants to make a comment or not, that's his business. He's under no obligation. Where was I?
What if you didn't know anybody?
Then see that there's this list of people here who are the top identifiers. So Eamon is from Sydney, and he does a lot of identifications of midge orchids.
So he's a PhD student in Victoria. He's doing work on the Oligocacchylis complex of the orchids, which is one of the greenhouses. And he's very happy to help with identifications.
Yeah. So you can just click somebody because they're on the list, or sometimes you think, well, I don't know whether they're even active anymore. So then you can click on the individual and you can look at their identifications and see. So he's got a date there, June 24, so obviously he's active at the moment. He's asking for it, yes, that's right. Yeah, so we sort of, he identifies a lot of blind, so he's very handy.
We're hoping to catch up with him when we go to Victoria.
Yeah, we try, when we meet people online, we try and make them into real people by visiting them. So yeah, it's not just sort of something artificial and remote. They're real people out there. I think I can. So just trying to find some. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Robert's just trying to find some interesting observations with comments that have gone on and some what we call maverick ones. One of the things about the community on iNaturalist is there's no tolerance of bad behaviour. So it's a very polite, objective community. There's curators that manage, so you can always ask them questions. And if you've got, you can say, I've got a problem somewhere.
Alan's sending me messages. I don't know why. Yeah, so it used to be all of the South Australian orchids were Erichylis cucullatus. Now there's only one record. So I went in and found all of the Erichylis and checked them all. And so most of them got down there to Colinus. So yeah, so this one that's left, it's down in the southeast where they're meant to occur. But we've only got one record in South Australia, so there are more on Facebook at the moment. Sorry, that one. Yeah.
So it's because the species has changed.
Well, it's also getting people involved. So people haven't put things on Facebook who aren't prepared to put them on iNats. So I identified this as cucullatus, and I tagged June in it. June Nagelki, who wrote the field guide that, what was that, last 22?
Last year.
23 was it?
Yeah.
And so June replied, it's more likely cucullatus, but a photo of the leaf is needed to be sure. So we've left it at that for now.
And that's based on the locality.
Yes.
Yes.
At some point, can you go right back to basics? Because I'm a bit like Jan, I'm on.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of them. I mean, if I just want to load a photo of my kidney,
Yeah.
I don't need an identification or anything, I just want to record that it's there.
Yeah.
Talk about how you do that.
All right,
I mean,
so
I know it sounds straightforward.
No,
but
no,
I'm just
no,
trying to do
that-
it.
it's all right. So you click on this upload button,
Yeah, which is what I did, yeah. Or a kangaroo or whatever, yeah.
and then you go to wherever your photos are.
And then click on the photo, and it pops up. But then what happens? Do you have to do anything else? I mean, I noticed mine came up automatically with the location.
So that kite before, so you just drag a picture on and drop it.
That's when you're doing it from.
Your phone.
No, this one is actually from through your computer. So I showed you before with the phone. I have got another observation on. I can go through it again.
Yeah. So with that one, you drag the picture onto that thing, and then just click on there, and that it'll suggest a species or a group of species. In this one case, you just click on that, and then to save it, you click that.
Before you do that, if you want to hit the observation that says Adelaide,
yeah.
because I haven't seen that page before.
So this is the map.
Yeah.
So we were standing on this track when we took the photo. You could actually put it where the bird was.
Yeah.
Like the bird was, well, they're flying all across this area here. Right? With birds, I figured that the location's not that critical because they're fairly mobile anyway.
Because I use a high-end camera, but I've got the GPS turned off.
Oh, all right.
So I have to, instead of that page, I use on the observation.
Well, you can go in through here and do what you want to do. You can
And then I
drop
state
it
where
in.
I put it.
Well, the other is you can use a combination of you use your phone to take your initial picture to make a record, and then you've got your record and your location, and then put your good photos in later, and then you can delete your phone photo.
No, I just do it with the real camera, then go home, put it in, then put the location in as I upload it, then it gives you the suggestion.
So what's your username?
Ken Hurley.
Do you want to have a look?
Does the phone automatically have the GPS turned on?
If you've turned it on, it should be, but some people turn their GPSs off.
How do you turn it on? How do you know it's turned on? Would it be in settings?
Oh, if you're in iNats, it'll say whether it hasn't got a location or not. If you do the observation through the app, it will say it requires GPS.
So then you've got to do the map and put the pin in.
If you haven't done that yet. So here, this is how we search for people.
What was it, Ken Hurley?
Yep. Yep. Top one. If you go down far enough, there is some orchids in there.
Just do a search for orchids.
Oh, so you've got a wasp damaged spider orchid as well.
Do wasps do that every time? Or like, is it deliberate?
Oh, well, that's how they're pollinated.
They're going to damage the flower to do that.
So when the male wasp lands on this labellum, they're trying to mate with it. So it's quite common for them to break the hinge that's at the bottom of the labellum, and then it just hangs like that.
Not all orchids have a hinged labellum, but the spider orchids do.
Some of the spiders.
Some of the spiders, that's right, because not all.
So-
Orchids don't follow a rule.
So this one I've already marked it as wasp damaged. So I've seen this, so I've confirmed the ID of that.
Yeah.
And so location-wise,
That'll be top of Mariolda.
Yeah. So one of the concerns, of course, is are our pollinators around? This tells us there's something around. Is it the actual pollinator? We're hoping it is.
so that's a very big area of uncertainty for that location.
Is that mine?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
zoom in a bit.
Click on the details. Go down to where it says details,
So it's got accuracy 562
I
metres.
don't usually do it that far.
Yes.
Try about to the right of it where the free going down the track is. That's probably where it would have been.
We can't change that. You
I
have
know.
to change that, Ken. So you'll have to make your circles smaller and move it over.
I usually don't do them that big, unless it's something odd.
Oh, sometimes we
Well, I'm often surprised at what I find, and like with that other one I just showed you, that the black-shouldered kite, sometimes you'll look at your map and you'll so that one makes sense. It was on the track where we were, but sometimes you'll get an observation out in the field or so, and you know, well, I can guess where it is closer than that, and so you might click on a spot and sort of make a larger dot because you're not quite sure where it is. Oh, yes, all right. So Rosie's saying about obscured ones.
You know, if you've just got a chunk of sky and a bird, you really need to, you can't geolocate it very easily, can you?
No. And look, they're going to be all over the place anyway, so you've got, it's in this rough area.
Yeah, they don't go in straight lines, I've noticed.
So with the king spider orchids, if you look at the locations, you've got these little marker, what do you call them? The pin drops. A lot of them make sense, but then there's these dots that are out in the ocean. So if you click on one of those,
That is not a spider orchid.
No, it is.
It's not a good place for it.
No.
so if you look at that record, you see that it's got an obscured location. So it's somewhere in that 1 degree spot.
Which is 20 square kilometres.
Well, this
Gee,
latitude.
that's a lot of space for one.
Yeah, so it's pretty hard to find it from that.
Yes.
You do something like that on your peninsula, like you might have one or two blocks of native vegetation in a thing. So, but even we've been going to this one, and I've spent hundreds of hours there, but I haven't looked at it all yet. So.
But there's lots of paddocks there that you'd presumably not be looking at anything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so.
I do do that, like say where, because if it's home or their house or whatever, I don't put it there.
Yeah, a lot of
location, not put it.
Obscure their own
home.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
So is there a button to press to do it?
Yes.
As everyone now knows, my western grey kangaroo is where I live. Which I didn't necessarily want to have now.
You need to come out.
We'll go back to my observations.
I'm a bit worried though, because I think I'm going live. I had someone comment saying he's always
Some people get on very quickly with identification. For birdos, a second later and you've got an ID done with some of them. Not all the time, but they're on pretty quickly.
So here's a record of my last record of cricket.
Where was that?
Well, that's
That'd be pretty hard to identify.
well, I can crop that,
But you can blow it up. Yeah.
but you can see, it's where we live. But what I can do is I can edit, and where it says change geoprivacy, I click from there to obscured, and then save. And when you see this on my list, you see,
It hasn't done it yet. It takes a little bit of time.
usually the marker changes to an eye. I have been obscuring it lately.
Well, if mine's still up there, you should be able.
Go to one of the obscure ones.
Oh, like if I go to. So I'll just turn off my observations. They're all brave ones.
Oh, there's
there's-
one.
Yeah, so there's somebody who's obscured a location. Yeah, so when you look at the map, that location, well, it's somewhere near the Grampians. So yeah, anyone can obscure any observation of theirs. And you can also let some people know, like you can indicate people that you trust to have to know where your observations are. And it's probably a good principle to have a couple of people, in case you pass away, somebody can use your data. But there's not much point if your data dies with you. And that a lot of people in the past have been very precious with their location data, and it goes when they go. So I think it's a lot better to at least trust someone with your data, so that it can be available to science.
So our children know to keep our data. It won't get lost. One of our daughters is on iNaturalist.
One of the projects should be for someone to go through all of Roger Dawes' 10,000 sites, and many of which are named, identified localities. I think of the ones I've pulled out, we've pulled up about 800 that have been digitised, and I've put all the lats and longs, but if they could all be uploaded in one batch, that would be
Message
amazing.
his cousin. Message his cousin. I know he's got so much there.
No, I'm talking about Roger Good's stuff.
Oh, sorry. Wrong person.
But I've got all of Roger's, of his stuff, we've copied 800 plus, except the last seniors, and all the data's there, what it is, all the information, and I've done all the latitude and longitude as well.
Why not apply for a grant for someone to put that all on iNats?
Because that's what I was,
With the
that's
family's
what I was
permission.
hoping we could do, put it on our
Yeah.
ALA, but of course if you put it on here, it goes to ALA
It
as
goes
well.
to the ALA, that's right.
That was the next day, that's why I did all the lats and longs. And if the label said 16, kilometres west of Warooka, I went west of Warooka, went 16 kilometres onto the map and found a patch of scrub and said it must be there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, but they're all transparencies and they've all been digitised, so
Yeah.
potentially that was going to be our next stage, so really, could that be done as a batch?
Yeah,
So
that can be done as a batch.
It's on a spreadsheet at the moment.
Yeah, so long as you've got photographs, that can all go up. Oh, it can go up without photographs, but it would remain as a casual observation.
Well, I've got the
And
photos.
sometimes, well, if you've got photos,
The
yeah.
photos aren't linked to the spreadsheet, so that's it.
Yeah. I'd apply for a grant and pay someone to do it.
Yeah. I'll talk to you about it after, because
Okay.
that was going to be our next stage with Roger's stuff. What's the point of copying all these complete life histories of butterflies, things that Peter McClellan hadn't even seen. He got so excited. Or
Yeah.
right through all of the stages, larvae, all the way through all the stages, shelters, everything.
Yeah, that would be good. And then that's there.
I'd have to have a chat, see how much work was involved in it. So I can work out a
I
grant.
think I might pass you on to one of the curators on that one. But it would be a good project. How long did you guys want us going for? It's just out of curiosity.
Could you put in Agyrus halmaturia, if you don't mind? If you don't mind that.
Just while I'm here, I've just done a search for the butterflies and moths of South Australia, and sorted them by the date that they've observed. So you see, there's a lot just gone on yesterday, this month, and there's very few identified to research grade. So there's plenty to do if you want to identify some moths and you can
Well,
recognise
Peter's
them.
been working, as we've been working through, he has been, there's a lot of things that are misidentified.
Can you just click on Oxycanus and
That one.
yes,
So that's gone to that particular record. Did you want that or the whole species?
no, I just a particular record.
Is
Is that South? Yeah.
It's just in South Australia.
No, just.
Yeah, near Mount Gambier.
Okay.
So now you can verify that. Which
Well,
you're an expert.
yeah, I don't know if there's enough there.
So one of the things is there's a comment section, and you can make comments like requires more photographs, and sometimes people have put up one photo, but they've got others as well. And the other, of course, is we didn't talk about, is the notes section. When you put your observation up, you can make comments in a notes section. Now the notes and the observation go into the ALA, but the conversation doesn't.
So you can put on here what level you're competent at. You could identify it to family, or you could put just that genus. And if you want to, you can look at all of the records of that genus.
That's the answer to
Which one?
that. The one that was on the.
Go back.
On the
Oh,
fray, yeah, don't hold it. I can do this myself. Yeah, that
Yeah, that one. Right. Well, that's somebody's chosen that as a sample, an example of that species.
Oh, Ethan Bieber, so I
That's
think a
right,
lot of you
well,
guys
You've heard
know
it.
Ethan.
Robert, I think a bit earlier it looked like people put sounds up as well.
Yes.
And could you possibly just explain the research levels again? I didn't quite get research. Three, is it?
It's a consensus of 2/3. So the minimum would be 2 people. But there was one.
Yeah.
So,
What's the 3?
so here on this thing, there are 3 different identifications. 2 agreed, and the third one wasn't sure.
But it was in the same area.
Yeah, so that's made it to research grade. One identification itself won't get to research grade. If you've got 2 people that agree, it will. But if you've got 2 that agree and 2 that don't agree, well, it'll say needs identification.
I'll give you a story that I came across. There was a fish washed up on the coast of California, and it looked like one of the fish that they saw commonly. So people went on and identified it. Some people get over enthusiastic, and they had a whole list of people who've identified it. The thing was, it was a totally new species, and they described it, because they took the specimen and described it. Then they had to sort of go and teach people about the species, and then so that they could get people either to withdraw their observation or to agree that this was this new species. I think they said they had to go through about 50 people to get it changed, so they got it to research grade.
It would have been easier to delete the photo.
No, there was so much conversation, they wanted to keep all that information that had gone up on with it. Yeah, you can delete your observation and start again, and some people have done that, but if it's been an involved conversation, that's probably not fair on the work that some people have put into it.
Well, isn't there some beaver that's got like 10,000 people, or it just goes on forever?
Yeah, I haven't heard that one, but there could well be.
It's just become a joke now.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that one, but this one was interesting because they actually described a new species from it. Eventually. Well, one of the people that had found it, I think they had about half a dozen people holding this fish up. It was a really big thing.
Well, I ended up finding a cicada in my backyard.
Yeah.
There was a cicada specialist in New South Wales, saw the photo, he said, can you stick them in the freezer, send them to me?
I know.
And they're now syntypes, but it wasn't a species.
Yeah.
You can find them in your own backyard.
Yeah, that's happened quite a few times. And in Australia, we've got so much that hasn't been identified. Do you want to find the double toenail now? So, particularly the first one. I know we've got away from the orchids here, but I work on the curiosity thing. So it was a rainy day and we were running late for a meeting, and I said to Robert, I've just got to take this picture of a native Pittosporum. And I thought, oh, that leaf looks odd. I took a picture of it, stuck it up, and didn't expect to get any observation, any identification on it, because it was a pretty crappy picture. And it wasn't soon after, this guy comes on and gave it a species name. I said, what? And so I had a conversation. It was Brad from the museum, and I said, look, I can't find much online on this. And he said, no, there's not much. What I did find from the ALA was that there were 2 specimens kept in the Northern Territory Museum that were collected in 1958. He said people just don't photograph them, and so we go looking at all the Pittosporum to see where it's located. So we're gradually been mapping where it is. But he says, oh, if you're over on York, could you check out? No, we haven't got time for all of it.
We're talking about undulatum, or we're talking about...
Pittosporum augustifolium, is it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So have you got it?
Yeah, so
Because this has got a conversation on. So this is.
So this is all of our records. All of the records for this species have all been in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So we managed to find them on York Peninsula, but they're easy to find in that you just look for native apricots.
I was going to say, you're talking about native apricot. I mean,
Yeah.
Every wetland's got about 12 of them. So would that count? I mean...
No, these are the whitefly that occur underneath the leaves. So.
Okay.
So that's Rosalie's first observation.
And it wasn't a very good picture. But so in this instance, no, I just want to point out. So in the notes, I've linked it to the observation of the plant as well. Then, if you scroll down, you see there's quite a. Someone thought it was something else originally. But then keep going down, Robert. You can see we're having this conversation back and forwards. That's the beauty of what you can do on iNats. And
but you don't get overwhelmed by misidentification. I mean, the field nats of Victoria, people just bang in, and they're so often wrong.
well,
you sort of get a bit worried about things being misidentified.
There's a self-correcting mechanism that's going on. The iNats people, it's actually primarily run by volunteers, by the way. There's only a very small staff component, but they've been doing some, constructing some projects where they're working out the accuracy of iNats identifications as compared with taxonomist identifications. It's actually coming up ahead, percentage-wise. It's quite interesting.
I could agree with this one.
There's not many of us to agree with that. I love the name of it.
There's something very similar on Banksia, it'd be interesting.
So there's a whole lot of whiteflies that Brad said have not been described, and they're generally specific to the host plant.
There's something
So
in Xanthorrhoeas.
Xanthorrhoeas is another
Xanthorrhoeas up
one,
in Cleveland.
and they're a double Tony alii.
So they have these leaderboards on iNaturalist. So Rosalie and I are neck and neck on double.
Oh, I've got to get some more then.
Is this just for orchids?
No, we got off orchids.
And so
Oh,
Liam, who works for me, he's got 6 of them. That's Brad from the museum. He's done a little looking, and
He's collected some specimens as a result.
Adrian's from the
Orchids and her.
Orchid Society, and he's the chief horn player with the
ASO.
Adelaide Symphony
He found
Orchestra.
some very rare soda up in the hills a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was with us when we showed him one of those, well, that one at Halakova.
Yeah.
So with that one on the Xanthorrhoeas, if I took a photo, because I've often thought I should do this, of the white fly
Yes.
on the Xanthorrhoea, and put it up as unknown species, and then someone,
Put it up as inset.
okay, all right.
And tag Brad, so that was singular.
Well, but I wouldn't have known that if you hadn't
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah.
So me as just general public.
Yeah, just put it up as insets.
And then let Nate.
Yeah, because that's how Brad found mine. I
Let
just
the
put
whole
it up as.
process work through.
Yep.
One jumping off iNaturalist, you can also send them to the Australian Museum through their website to the entomologists as well.
I wasn't so keen on actually getting it identified, I just really wanted other people to know that it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so you can see there's this little cluster there next to Merino Conservation Park where Rosalie found her first one, and so a few of us have gone back there to, and that's where Brad collected a specimen for the museum because yeah, there was no record apart from that one in the Darwin Museum, so he's collected a live one.
I mean, that's often the way. Things aren't necessarily, they're rare until they're found.
That's right.
And once you know where to look, all the same
Everybody's got.
well, no, but I mean,
Yeah,
once you know where
yeah.
to look and what plants to look on and what their characteristics or habit is, then you can find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that this sort of thing, that people would go looking for those white flies now, that they know that they're there, and they are fairly easy. I think we find about 1 in 10 plants that you look at. Not that many.
No, Brad said about 1 in 100.
Looking at the plants, not, I can note observing that there are things on the plants, but I don't go, I'm interested in the plants, you know?
Yeah, that's
And
why I
just think,
have
oh,
the
you know, this
ABC.
one's got
Yeah,
spotty things.
So what's that? We've recently been finding a rust fungi.
Oh.
which I found first.
Well, have you got a photo of
Pacini,
it?
yeah, we'll get it up.
On what?
It's Pacini
Looking at myrtle rose.
No, not myrtle rust. Actually, that was interesting. I got contacted by a researcher in New South Wales who said, looking at your observations, can you keep an eye out for myrtle rust?
Yeah, really.
We know it's not in South Australia, but we'd like to have observations done. So this is how iNat works. It's a community.
No, you got me interested, I just got to work out how to.
Okay, I'll give you some
The
information.
hesitation of stuff, how to.
I got curious when I saw these funny things.
These are, yeah, we don't understand the biology of rust fungi, but these are on leaves of ruby saltbush.
They're gorgeous. Did you put that up on Facebook, by any chance? Someone else?
Yeah, Robert put it.
Okay.
Anything odd we put up on Facebook just to encourage people to use iNats.
So that's a rust, is it?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very, very, well, I think it is, I'm
And
not
that's really strange.
What makes it a rust?
Now
sure. I was
now we're
blown
at
away, because I thought it was a.
One of the things I was actually
When I first saw it, I was
So one of the mycologists told me that in the description that was originally done, I think in the 1800s, of this rust, this part of the cycle was not described. There aren't any images. The closest we found was there are 2 specimens of another rust in America. And that's how we had that trail that we were following through.
That's weird, isn't it?
But that's fascinating, because someone else has been posting. I don't think it was you guys, but someone else has popped up a photo of that.
Oh yeah, Manfred's been doing some, and we've got a few people that we've told, and they've been doing some photos. So the herbarium were quite interested when they found that we had posted it.
So it's on a native salt bush.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope that just encourages people to look a bit more widely, not just orchids, not just moths, but yeah.
But we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
I think we kind of got off the orchids, but I hope I think you all were entertained. iNaturalist itself is a big topic.
That stuff up there.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to ask if there are any questions. I know that there's been excellent audience speaker interactions all the way through, so perhaps I'll say, if you'd like to talk to Robert and Rosalie over eats and drinks, that would be great. I'd just like to say thank you very much. It's a very different thing to do, and it's a bit like Jan's, mobile phone thing. So, yeah, really excellent. I mean, you've convinced me. I would say that I've avoided it, but I probably have avoided it. But I think I will definitely join and take part as much as I can myself now. So I will say too, there's a lot that you can learn by just playing around too, by the way, on these sites. Something goes wrong and you think, oh, I didn't mean that, and then you've got to uncorrect it. So you even learn more, right? So playing around is a very good idea. So anyway, thank you very much. Now hold on. Now, do you have one or both of these?
Both of them.
Perhaps we can have a chat in a moment.
I'm actually going to get up so you can take a picture of Ferox Australia's YouTube channel, because there's some videos on how to use iNaturalist. So I will get that up, Robert.